What if you could help others to find the power to heal themselves? Physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
When I started teaching my classes, it was in 2002, and I was just doing the past life regressions and contacting the subconscious part. But then as the time went on and we found how powerful this was and what we could do with it, a lot of the students began saying, you know, advanced past life regression doesn't really tell what it's all about. This is so much more than that. We think you should change the name. So it was a few years ago we decided to change the name to Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And this is the healing technique that we've now been teaching it, well, since 2002, that's 12 years.
What if you could time travel with them? Visit mythical places or angelic realms, other worlds, other galaxies. Help others to speak to their higher selves. You can. Dolores has taught thousands of people from across the world how to use QHHT, and now you can learn her method by going directly to dolorescannon.com. And don't forget to mention the discount code MORETALKS. Have you ever wondered, can you communicate directly with spirit guides, teachers, or non-physical consciousness, or even our higher selves? What would they tell us? My name is Kevin Moore, and since 2015, I started to practice a form of communication which is termed channeling. I have been interviewing experts on my talk show to find out, does life continue after we die? And can we communicate with those that have crossed over? With each expert I spoke to, they all had different ideas. Is there knowledge from the past which could be shared with the present moment? So I thought, why not just speak to the non-physical world directly through channelers around the world? And that's what I set out to do. They call us channelers will take the viewers on a journey into the phenomena known as channeling. And my main goal with this docuseries is to bring a new understanding and awareness to channeling by looking within ourselves and asking, is it truly possible that we can all use this innate ability?
Hi, I'm Ph.D. Benedittis. I live in Santa Fe, New Mexico with my beautiful wife, Tracy Schechter. I've spent the past 20 years doing alcohol prevention work, writing curriculum. I recently sold that curriculum, and now that I'm semi-retired, I've been opening up more to spirit, and I've been guided to present messages to people to help them get more in touch with the ascension that's coming to our planet.
Well, Peter, thank you very much for coming on board. I think you've kind of answered a little bit about what you do there. Let's just get into that elevator pitch. So if you were to sum up the channeling side of your work right now, what would that be? What do you channel for others or for yourself?
So when the channeling abilities descended on me, they came in a big way, and this came recently. And I can literally talk to any entity that I can conceive of. I hold the frequency of it, and then I can have a conversation. Now, it's not in words like I'm having with you, Kevin. It's an energy squirt, and I have to put it through words, which means it's going to sound like me because I'm the one who has to figure out all these words. But I can talk to any entity. For what I do in my practice is I don't choose to speak to anybody except to the sacred higher self of the person I'm working with. I can do one-on-one sessions and access information that they kind of may know about, but haven't really reached out to because they're not fully connected to their source yet. And so I can kind of encourage them to move in the directions where they can do their growth as directed by themselves.
So you're helping people to connect to the potential of what they've come here to do, whether that's connecting them back to their path or opening up to new ideas. But really, it's all about energy, isn't it? And where that person's energy is really best suited for their, fundamental happiness.
Well, thank you. And Kevin, to be honest, I'm all about the energy. So even though I'm going to be talking about myself here, the viewers will get a connection or not. They'll go, this is the kind of energy is relatable. And then they'll either seek out more with me or not. So what I actually do is help people move through blockages. See, we all have innate connection to source. We all have the ability to, talk to it. I was talking to my niece the other day, and I was talking about how I was doing channeling podcasts, and she goes, well, who do you talk to? And I mentioned, making me stop my higher self. He goes, well, don't you talk to Jesus? And I go, yes, when I want to, I just don't channel him. And so this stunned her for a second, because it's like she talks to Jesus all the time, but never considered that this was a natural thing and that everybody does it. And if you have that connection to your deity, you then can have that connection to all energetic beings. So what I do is I help people realize that they are source energy beings and they can connect. And the biggest thing I do is to remove blockages. You see, that's really what keeps us from being in this expanded state, is the compressed, suppressed energies. Usually that's emotions that haven't been fully expressed that then become a pattern in the person, and then a mental structure is built around it to make it seem like, oh, this is the way I am. So we remove emotional blockages by fully experiencing them, and then we bring source in. And literally, it's like changing timelines. People's lives become different. Things just happen out of the blue that you don't expect.
So just go deeper there into removing blockages.
So if you look at yourself as an energetic template, okay, what happens is our emotions are actually a guidance system. But the way we've been raised in our culture is that we don't have a lot of experience fully expressing. When we're a kid, we'll cry it out and then we'll turn around and run around and play. But as we grow older, it's like, big boys don't do that. Come on, girl, pull up your panties. This is the thing you got to do. You got to be tough. So we've been trained to suppress our emotions. As a result, these energetic blocks get built in. Some of them are big, abusive things. Some of them are just small little things, like you felt guilty about leaving a moldy bologna sandwich in your closet when you were 5. But anyway, it built an energetic structure that then your subconscious, and remember, your subconscious is 90% of what's motivating you at any time, okay? Your subconscious then is sending you messages like, oh, don't do this, I can't do that. And then you just assume it's your reality. So what we do is I connect with people, connect to their sacred higher self, get guided to the places where these energies are stuck, and then we remove them through a process of fully expressing them, turning them over to source and replacing them with better energies. Then all of a sudden, things just change. It's almost like you shift timelines.
Is that the only type of person that comes to you? Is that mainly the thing that you've been experiencing with people that you've been working with?
So it's 2 types of people that reach out. And one of them are people who suddenly have some shift in their life to say, well, there's more here, and there's really not a lot of guidance I'm getting on how to access becoming more. All right. There's not a lot of people. I mean, in the current world, you look at it, there's tons of channelers online. They've been doing it for a long time. They've got connections to beings all over the galaxy. And people are like, well, I can't do that. But there's not a lot of people like me. I'm the next wave of channelers that are coming in, the people that are making the transition and say, okay, now here, let me stick a hand out to you to help you transition. So that's half the people that I connect with. The other half are people who are just desperate and at wit's end and don't know what to do and are looking for some comfort. And that can be provided as well. They just need to stick with it once they pull the junk out, and then things brighten up quite quickly.
So clients that see you, it's not always about breaking into new abilities or gifts that one might have.
Right. So the gifts just naturally come. It's not about the gifts. They just naturally come as you release the blockages. What happens usually is, because I work with channeling the other person's sacred higher self, what happens usually is that I'll get information that, I kind of was thinking about that. Or, yeah, I kind of had a feeling it might be something like that. And then we go in and when a person's in a troubled state, if they can relax enough and allow enough trust, then very quickly we'll get to what's happening, and they'll either cry or shake or something will happen, and they'll feel the experience. So mainly just uncovering little suppressed things that they weren't quite aware of in their consciousness. And then you bring some attention and light to it, and then the shift takes place.
So what comes through then is, what's the next step they need to take, or what's the best path for them that maybe their soul's pushing them on to do? I'm not sure if I'm saying that correct, Peter.
You're exactly right in how you're describing it. You're exactly right in how you're describing it. What will come through is, what's the next step for that person for what immediately is going on? Sometimes it's just simple things. I mean, when I started my journey 25 years, 30 years ago, I started in AA, okay, Alcoholics Anonymous, in recovery. And it was just simple stuff. Have you eaten today? You know, have you understood that you're doing good even though you're feeling bad? Little simple things like that, okay? So when I work with somebody, sometimes it's just simple stuff to just stop the pain in the moment. Little suggestions to stop the pain in the moment. Then it's like, okay, let's go to the source of where that pain originated and feel it so it can be relieved. You see, the way the universal energy works is that anything that's stuck keeps attracting. See, this is how we have our growth experiences. We set these things up for ourselves so that we can become more. That's why we're incarnate on the planet. And anything we don't fully experience becomes like a magnetic energy to keep attracting that same kind of pattern over and over. Once you relieve the pattern, then the energy is released, and then you've, on a spiritual level, you've mastered it. Now, it may not change anything externally on the physical level, but you have a sense of peace and calm going forward, and things become easier. So a lot of times when I work with somebody, you'll sit there and I'll see that they're in this crisis now, but it also happened 5 years ago when they got a divorce, and it happened again with their first boyfriend or girlfriend, and it happened in college, and it happened with their parents when they were a kid. So we can clear the entire energetic pattern out by being aware of it and bringing light to it. And then, of course, you replace it with something better, auspicious gifts.
I can't even begin to imagine what that would look or feel like. As you can see, I can't even, I don't know what to say to that. I mean,
right, because I'm a different kind of channeler. I'm not just bringing you a message to do learning. I'm a hands-on, you-specific kind of channel to change things. What helped me a lot, Kevin, was I had a lot of experience moving my own personal blockages. There was a time I was introduced to a series of books called Right Use of Will. And it was just really, really crazy. My sister mailed me this book, and that night I had dreams about being in Atlantis and stuff like that. I never had any of that stuff before. And so I'm talking to my sister a couple of days later, and she goes, Peter, you and I were connected. And all of a sudden, this was my first experience of having knowledge that was from outside myself, from my sacred self. I said, yes, I know we're connected, Suze. In this past life, I was a woman, and I was married to a guy, and you were a small girl in the village, and I was frigid, and I wasn't doing anything for this guy, so I would pay money to bring small girls in for him to abuse, and you were one of them. And she knew all that too. So we both had this instantaneous knowing of this happening simply because she mailed me this book. So what I had to do was go finish the experience of what happened to me when I was that woman in the past, and feel all those feelings, feel all the pain I caused, because that's forgiveness. As soon as you feel the pain you caused, forgiveness instantly takes place. So I'd feel her feelings of, the abuse that I arranged for her to take place. And so that was just kind of, wow, out of the blue. So I didn't really do anything this for years, because it's weird. It's like, how is this stuff happening? And I can tell you a bunch more stories where spirit had a line of coincidence after coincidence after coincidence. So I finally realized this is not coincidence.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a crazy amount of honesty to have those kind of conversations about that's what you're feeling, you just explained that the synchronicity of your sister and you having those recollections. I guess that was supposed to be for you. I mean, not everyone gets that experience.
but it is available to everyone, is what I'm here to carry the message of, is that we've been taught not to pay attention to these kinds of information. We've been taught not to feel our feelings because, they're too painful. You see it now on TV shows where somebody will spend a lifetime suffering, and then the friends will address it, and they'll say, oh no, it's too painful, but at least they're having the idea in these TV shows and movies that you can clear this stuff and then life gets better. I'm here to tell you, you can clear it quickly. I was attracted to that right use of will work. I eventually found my way to Oneness University. I had a case of shingles. It was really bad. It was 2 dermatomes all the way across from front to back of my body. So much pain, I wanted to die. I mean, literally, it was painful, and I wanted to die for a long time. One of my friends says, hey, we do these energetic transmissions. Why don't you check it out? So I went in, and instantly I felt something in the room. Then I received the transition, and my pain levels cut down by 50%, just like that, from this energetic transmission. So I came home and I told my wife, I said, I'm going to be following this oneness path for a while because I got immediate results with it. So I made like 5 trips to India, a month long at a time in classes at Oneness University, where they literally take you into their processes. They're literally like, okay, how do you find these places that you've heard in your lifetime, and how can we clear them? So I had a lot of training in that. And then I became a trainer on how to help other people remove these processes, or remove these stuck emotion through processes. And so that was kind of setting me up for this work now, where now not only do I understand how to do processes like this, but also I'm connected to my sacred higher self, and I have the ability to speak to somebody else's sacred higher self. So we can zone right in, just get it done in an hour or 2.
Yeah. Well, I guess it depends what you're going through. I guess the people that you're getting are people that are pretty stuck then.
So again, it's like 2 sets of people, Kevin, the ones that are really stuck and are looking for a lifeline. And then also I get people who say, things are changing, their relationships, their jobs, because the planet is undergoing ascension. We're moving into a higher energy field, and that's just where we're going to be. People call it 5D, 5-dimensional energies. We're going there. 3-dimensional energy can't come. It's going to keep running the blockages in people's lives. So a lot of people say, stuff is going on. I'm changing. I don't understand these changes. Who can I talk to for some guidance? And there's a lot of teachers out there that are doing this. There's a lot of channels that are offering these kinds of guidances, but I'm trying to do it on a one-on-one level with people, to sit there and say, hey, here's some very simple things you can start doing to make stuff happen in your life, like abundance. How many people in the spiritual path are sitting there saying, oh, but I'm poor, because so much of poverty is built in around, the idea that you're connected to source, so therefore you must be poor, when that's just a mental creation.
With going from the idea of 3D to 5D, I'm not ready yet myself personally to leave those things in the 3D behind that I still want to experience, or things that I've maybe not experienced fully. So yeah, I'm curious about going into the 5D space though.
Right. So this is real important to understand. It's not about leaving anything behind. When you move to a new neighborhood, you take all your best stuff with you. And you don't just instantly move into 5D, because if you did, you would miss all the learning opportunities along the way. All right. And also, most of us are carrying so much stuck energy from 3D that if manifestation was instant, we'd be creating a lot of crap by manifesting that without clearing it. So it's a process. You don't leave anything behind. You take all the good stuff, but you clear out all the stuff that's weighing you down. That's the process. And a lot of people are starting to understand, because the most important things I can do every day is, did I get a couple of cuddles in with my wife and my cats? Did I do some laughing today? All right. So then my whole energetic space is, I'm safe, I'm connected, and I'm happy. And then when I go out to the store, or when I go out and I'm looking at some business opportunities, or whatever it is I do, that new energy is there. And these are different kinds of experiences, even though I'm still doing the same everyday life. I'm still doing the yard work on my yard. I'm still shoveling snow when it snows. All that stuff still happens. It's not like you're some instant place that's all magical. It's just that you feel like it's all magical while you're doing that. Causeless joy. I've heard it explained as causeless joy.
Well, thank you for that. So let's just go into your backstory a little bit more. So you've got a PhD from Penn State University where you taught literacy. So just take us from the PhD to where you are now on your journey, as you've kind of got both feet in both worlds in a sense.
Okay, I'm actually going to go a few years before the PhD because that was when I got sober from doing a 12-step program, which allowed me to finish my PhD, quite honestly. And that was the first time I was introduced to the concept of a higher power, something greater than myself. Now, I grew up in a religious household, but it was a religious war. One parent would tell me that whatever the other parent was doing was wrong and then beat me for attending those services. Then the other parent would do the same and it would go back and forth. So I wanted to have nothing to do with it, what was called religion or spirit. So I got introduced to this higher power, and that's when things started to change. Then a few years after that, I got my PhD, and I was introduced to right use of will. And that really was a thing about how to move stuck emotions. It was just really a series of books telling the story of creation designed to trigger emotional responses in you. So I just did that because it naturally seemed like the thing to do. So I got good at moving emotions. Now, as I was doing this, I always started getting an interest in people who could channel, and I'd read messages. This was before the internet, right? So I'd be reading messages and things like that. Then it started taking off, and I had more access to it. Then certain things started happening along the way. One of them was I got really ill with shingles. Okay. Super amount of pain. And a friend of mine said, well, we do these oneness blessings, these energy transmissions called the oneness blessing, a diksha. And I went and received one, and my pain levels dropped in half. And I came home and I said to my wife, I'm going to pursue this path. So I started going to Oneness University in India for a month at a time for classes. I became a trainer, learning how to do that. Along the way, some very other interesting things just happened. Because I was attracted to channelers, I found Lee Carroll, and he was leading a tour through South America. And I said, well, let's go to South America. Let's go see Machu Picchu. And we were at the pyramids at Tiahuanaco. And I went to my wife and I said, do you feel this? Because I started feeling things at this point. And I go, do you feel this? Yeah, I know there's a portal here. And then I had a connection, a transmission. And I realized there were energy beings. I later learned Pleiadians that I could talk to if I wished to. And I say, well, how do I do this? And I said, here, we're going to teach you mnemonic. Just tug back behind your ear, and that'll be a memory cue that you'll be able to connect with us. So they gave me that gift, and I did nothing with it. Okay. All right. So, but I was interested in this idea that there's going to be this becoming, there's these changes. 2012 was around. So there was this Crystal Skull tour to celebrate 2012. It was a shaman from South America had put it together. They wanted to unite the energies of the North and the South because this was the bridge we were moving towards. And they were bringing these crystal skulls across the country. And we drove up to Colorado to see them, my wife and I. And there was a shaman who had a 5,000-year-old skull. And he just said, here, hold it. Just handing me this precious thing. And he did. And I dropped to the ground. And I came to a while later, and he said, oh, you just had an energetic download. And I go, well, what's in it? And he goes, when the time's right, you'll know. I'm like, okay. So
well, I hope you didn't drop the skull, but
no, I know. It's like 5,000-year-old thing. Yeah. Just break it. Come on.
Okay.
So this is kind of how things happen for me. Then all of a sudden, things are moving along. I'm learning about, moving into the energetic shift. We're in the golden age from, the Kali Yuga to the Satya Yuga. So we're moving into this people call 5D now. And so I was excited about it. So I wanted to learn about it. So I was doing more oneness work, taught a few classes about that, and things were moving along. And I started getting this inkling about I should learn to do skills. So I wanted to learn to remote view. Okay. So I took an online class on YouTube from the Farsight Institute on how to remote view. And I didn't really jibe with it well because it was all CIA military protocols. And it was like, as I dove into it, it was an energy that wasn't very nice. Okay. But I got some success, not a lot. But in the middle of it, somebody said, hey, go get a quantum healing technique process, Dolores Cannon's work. Go get one of those. And so I did. And in the middle of that everything came together. This was about a year ago. Just everything came together. And all of a sudden, I was talking to an entity from the Pleiades, Mira, who said her mission is to help humanity go through this time. So she's kind of the ground crew looking for people like me who are ready to step forward and work with them. Turns out Mira was part of the group that had contact with when I was at Tinawaku that I never used anything with. Right? So I was just talking to her all the time. And then one of my friends said to me, he said, hey, don't talk to just anybody. Talk to the sacred higher self of the person you're with. And that was when things really changed. Because then I started having a connection to the sacredness, the beauty, the expansiveness of the person I'm in contact with. So then this spring, I sold my business, alcohol literacy prevention curriculum. I sold that. And my wife and I decided to celebrate by doing a month-long trip to Egypt with Lee Carroll again, because we liked it when we went to, a decade ago when we went to Machu Picchu. And we really, two things happened on the trip. One is we talked to people been there before, and we understood that this was not about sightseeing. This was about energetic enhancement. So we would stop outside of every temple and say, okay, source, take us to the right place and give us the right energy to uplift us. Right. And we would do that, and we'd go in and we'd feel what the energy was. And boy, we would just get a bath every day at all these sacred sites. It was so cool. In the meantime, we were driving down the Nile River on a river cruise boat. We had all these afternoons together. And so I started just playing with people saying, hey, I kind of do this channeling thing because I'd been doing it with friends and family. And just they all told me, I had a one question customer satisfaction survey. Is this useful? And they all told me it was. So I'm like, okay, I'm not going to doubt it anymore. This is useful. So I said, these are people who came to see a world famous channeler, and I'm on this boat with them. Let me try it with them. And so word got out I was doing this, and they were lined up 3 or 4 deep every afternoon, and I'd say, hey, is this useful? 100% said it was. So I got home from Egypt, and a spirit says to me, it says, hey, all right, do you need any more proof? It's time to go public. Everybody it's all hands on board, okay? You need to step up and carry your message forward that it's time for this, like we've been helping you, for you to help other people step into their power. So that's kind of the whole arc over 20 years.
That's so interesting. So I think there was a quick stint at the Ramtha, who's channeled by Jay-Z Knight. I think they went to the School of Enlightenment as well.
Yeah. So Ramtha was cool. Mainly, I saw that movie, What the Bleep, and then I actually met some of the people in it. I met the physicist dude. I was at a convention. We were sitting next to a party, and I was sitting between a physicist and a priest. It was so cool, that conversation, right? A quantum physicist, because they were saying the same things just from different viewpoints. So I got interested, and I went and saw Joe Dispenza do a lecture. Love his work. Oh my God, it's helped me so much. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. So I went to the Ramtha school, and it was beautiful teachings. I'm not sure I agree with it. I'm not sure I do all of it again. But one of the things I loved is they would practice, what Zen archery is, where you get a blindfold and you shoot like 6 feet away. Well, we were shooting 50 yards away. All right. And I could just start sticking targets. All right. So if I was shooting a set flight of 10 arrows, 3 or 4 of them would hit the target, and I'd get a bullseye, usually every set of 10. All right. And so I knew that if I could do that with my eyes closed by creating this reality, I can do anything. So the Ramtha school was very helpful in giving me those confidence skills.
Yes, and like you say, some bits of it you agree with, and others you didn't. It was just part of your path, and that was part of the journey. It's also, thank you for sharing that. It's also very interesting that you went back with Lee Carroll's. I was going to say traveling group there, but back on one of his broad events, and did he recognize you? Did he? Oh
yeah, Lee's really great. He remembered me from the last trip.
Cool.
Him and Monica are just beautiful, and we talked, and things like that. And so there's that, and it's just like being with family when we're on one of those trips with him. It's just like being with family.
I bet it's really nice. Yeah, I know he's been doing those for years, those journeys. I think the only
He's
time
not going to be doing many outside the country now. He's getting to the point where he's going to do just local things. So, if you get a chance to visit when he does one, I'm all saying, oh yes.
I'm not surprised. I mean, they it's some long journeys, weren't they? I mean, he was mostly abroad most of the time for most of the year. I guess the pandemic and everything else slowed things down, and like it did for everyone, gave everyone a different chance to reevaluate what they're doing and why they're doing things. Maybe for a lot of people. So okay, wonderful. This kind of brings us up to where we are now. Then, now with your work, okay, I should just mention this. Your website is.
My website is becomingawesome.one. That's ONE. So becomingawesome.one.
Thank you. So we've got services on there. You do, you've got a channel spiritual coaching sessions. You do those. You've got 10 tools to abundance and growth process and practices. We will go into those in a little bit, right, what they are. But maybe this will answer this question as well. So let's just go over this again. The people that are coming to see you then, they're sort of divided into two camps. So if I was going to come to see you, and the reading for me, right, I'll sort of preface it this way. The reading for me was not really so much that I wanted to become a healer, or, I thought I had abilities and I could do this and that. I just wanted to shoot the stuff with you. I was stuck for whatever reason, and I felt the pull to come see you. That's one type of person, because I don't think you're going to give readings. Well, I'm sure you could give readings too, but you don't maybe normally get these type of readings where it's just like, the mundane sort of relationship stuff, right? Where's my relationship going? Does she still love me? Are they coming? Where do we stand? I don't think you're getting those type of people, are you?
No. So
No.
First of all, before I answer your question fully, I do everything on a donation basis. So it's not like about making money. It's about service. Because the people I'm helping are not my source. Source is my source, and I'm doing fine. But if you care to give anything, then you understand how flow works, and that's just a beautiful thing. Now, as far as who comes to see me, this is really interesting. I'm not a medium, okay? So a lot of people say, I want to talk to grandma. I'm like, no, I'm not the guy. I could, because I can speak to any spirit I want to, but that's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to enhance you. And I don't want people to get the message that they have to go through somebody to talk to grandma. Talk to her. She's there. And, people say, well, I don't have this ability. Well, that's because you doubt it. Now, do you want to work on the doubt? All right. So that's what I would help people with then. Okay. So there's that kind of thing. There's also the kind of thing that I don't give readings. All right. So they're sitting there saying, oh, well, what about this happening or that happening? And, spirit always tells me 100% of the time, tells me, you got free choice. Why don't you make a choice and use it and then own your choice? Because that's how you own your power. Don't ask us what's right to do, because whatever we tell you, you'll do, but that'll keep you in the place of feeling you're less than and you don't have your own power. Now, if you want to work with us to understand what's happening as you make your choices or what results you get from making your choices, great. But we're not going to give you any advice or give you a reading about what to do or how to proceed, because that's against moving into 5D. That's the 3D thing. There's smart people who know things and you need to go to the experts. That's not where we're headed. So I don't do any of that. So a lot of people get, they're expecting that and they never see me again, right? And of course, they don't leave a donation, right? But that's okay. So the people I work with the most are in two categories. And those are people who say, I'm ready to get some help from somebody who's just made the transition, because I've just only recently come out with these abilities and be able to use them. And other people are having them. So what's it like as you're in transition? How can I help you with those kinds of things? And then the other thing I do is clear emotional blockages, work with people to find what's keeping us stuck, go back to those roots, whether it's in childhood or in a past life. Almost always it's related to somebody's parents or something. You know how karma works, primary, secondary, tertiary. What's happening now is a relationship of everything that's happened in your past, which is a relationship of everything that happened in your birth, which is a relationship of everything that happened in a past life. Clear one of them, you get all of them. Okay. So we'll just go in and find those places where it was most easy to lever, and we'll just finish the emotion, remove the energy, and then bring in, something better, something more auspicious.
Okay, two things. First of all, I've actually, I don't know, well, maybe it's just because of the work that I do, but even very close personal friends, right, who don't watch this show that I do, right? We live separate lives when it comes to this show, right, and these subjects, right, which is fine, right? But some of them have been contacting me recently saying, I want to be a medium. I think I've got that ability. And I'm like, wow, you know what I mean? I never thought we'd have this conversation. And yeah, I see people right now coming in, and this will last for a while. This is not just right now, but this is the energy of now and time to come.
Absolutely.
Of people coming into this work, most definitely. And also, I think when someone's doing what they're supposed to be doing, there's so much happiness there doing it. They wouldn't be coming to someone like yourself or anyone really to need advice, because they will just be in their zone, right? They'd be in their power. They'd be aligned with what they're meant to be doing.
Sometimes they are, but it really helps to just reach out to somebody and go, yeah, you're going through this too. Cool. And then the doubt relieved and they just get the confirmation. Sometimes it's nice to hear it. Because I channel people's sacred higher self, I'm basically just telling them what their source is telling them. But when they hear it from another person, then it sticks more. And they go, yeah, I got this. I can do this. And you're absolutely right. This is the transition into 5D. And it's not just becoming a medium. People are coming to you about that because that's what you do on your shows, right? But it's about all the kinds of abilities, flipping timelines, being able to manifest. These kinds of abilities are just taking off in spades as well. And so that's going to be coming to people. And there's no real roadmap on, okay, how do you do this stuff? Some people are doing it. Joe Dispenza's work, which I love from the Ramtha School time, very helpful with that. A lot of other people are giving hints about it. But I'm here to sit there and work with the newcomer on a one-on-one basis to say, okay, let's go. Let's make this happen in your life. Let me just tell you a quick story when I realized it was happening for me. So I have this neighbor and he builds these big walls and they're ugly and they violate code and blah, 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 blah. And it's been making my wife crazy for a while. And so he calls up and says, you got to take the stones you put on the top of the wall off because we wanted it to look pretty because we were tired of looking at like a prison block. And you need to do it by tomorrow morning. All right. So my wife's all freaked out by this. And I say, look, I'll go deal with it. So I walk up to the door. I'm getting ready to ring the bell. And I say, hey, God, the only thing I'm going to say is fuck off. So you need to speak here because otherwise I'm just going to tell this guy where to go. Okay.
Okay.
So the guy tells me, hey, look, you got to take these down by tomorrow. And I said, no. And then he says, but you guys agree to do that. And I said, no. And he said, we've got a phone call recorded where you said that. I said, no. And he goes, okay, well, I'll have my guy do it and you'll pay for it. And I said, no. And then it was just like a science fiction movie, except there was no shimmering lights and no music. But he shifted and his wife shifted. His wife, who never speaks to anybody, stepped out of the house. And then he says, you're right. The most important thing is being a good neighbor. We'll take care of it. And the wife repeats that back. So it was like, I flipped timelines. It's the first time I've done it and where I was aware of it, where I went from this guy who for years had been causing problems by just turning it over and allowing. He's just like, oh, no, it's all fine. We'll just take care of it. Glad we worked it out. Let's be good neighbors.
Yeah.
So
what? Yeah,
that's boggling.
Crazy. That is boggling. But okay. So you call it flipping timelines. Well, that's the one way of looking at it, right? But it could also be, you did say a little prayer there before you interacted with him in the sense that, let your voice, this higher voice, God, whatever you want to call it, be the voice to come down to sort this out. So
yes.
There was that in there as well.
I used to do that in my public speaking career too. I'd sit there and I'd get all nervous and I played really bouncy music and I'd be up on stage dancing while the audience, because I was high school kids, right? They'd be filing in, I'd be dancing. And then I'd say, okay, God, your words, not mine. Right. So I kind of was used to that.
Right.
But I'm interested in, and this is what I'm working on now, because this is another gift that's unfolding, is this timeline flipping is happening right and left for me. And so I'm very excited about that. That's why I wanted to tell you that story.
Well, how do people do that? I mean, are you saying that's something that you can master, you feel?
So yeah, except it's not really mastery. What I'm learning is that in 3D, you do things with intent, and in 5D, you do things with an allowance. Okay. So you kind of want to have an idea of where you're going, but you don't really want to lay out all the steps and how it's going to look like, because otherwise you're still in 3D. If you were doing a session with me, I'd say, okay, let's go behind that and clear it, because your natural state, once you do clear these things, is causeless joy. Now, what I'm finding with a lot of people I work with, and message that comes through from my sacred higher self over and over and over, is stop paying attention to the outside world. If you're playing the game of following, are the white hats winning? Are they going to free all the trapped children? When are we going to get the money, reval, et cetera, et cetera? If you play that game, that keeps your consciousness there, and then that keeps that reality going. So one thing is to just stop attending to that reality, and then give yourself a daily dose of bliss. Turn on a TV show that makes you laugh and watch it for 20, 30 minutes a day as a prescription to your mental health. And then you'll be back in that state.
I can't imagine being part of the QAnon movement, thinking that stuff, and and nothing ever changing. Do you know what I mean?
Right. But the thing is, Kevin, is that not only is it not changing, but the psychic weight of hundreds of thousands and millions of people who had hope and are waiting for something. That's it. That's in the field. We're all picking that up. That's why we get down. The part of the QAnon movement and all that stuff. And I love everything they're doing. Don't get me wrong. I want them to do it. I just don't want to be the one doing it. I don't want to attend to it. Okay. Part of what's going on is that it creates a division. We're at odds here, and we have to fight to get somewhere. And we give our power away to the white hats. Where instead, if we go internally and connect to source and create that, then it starts to reflect our lives around us. Money starts to flow. We don't know from where, it just shows up. All right. These other causal things just happen around you, and you're happy. And then that creates a bubble that you generate. I'm trying to work with those people who understand that this is the aspect of creation and transition, that we're going to generate bubbles of heaven because of how we operate. And that's going to create the field that creates the shift that everybody else has been waiting for.
Yeah, I mean, I think the QAnon movement, they're just having some fun. It's just a fun movement for some people right now, just to get together. But I mean, yeah, I feel sorry for anyone that believes in that. But at the same time, just have fun. So
yeah, I'm not here to make any judgments, because your path is your path, and this may be their opportunity to learn.
Yeah, hey, if
all I know is that
the children are buried underneath the, wherever they're, under in the tunnels and stuff, good luck to you, really.
Well, once you start getting connected to source, you realize that all these timelines exist. And so things they're talking about exist, and you can experience them, and you can actually, if you choose to, get all upset about it, or you could just send energy in to help people with it, right? To help clear it out. And I've had that. There was a period of time where I was waking up, and I just wasn't sleeping good. And I was waking up with bruises and bleeding and stuff like that. And I've said to source, what's going on? And they go, oh, you've got an energy that's really helpful, and you're helping on some of these missions, because when you hold a state of observation without judgment, when you can see what you're in opposition to without judgment and love it, then it creates an impenetrable shield. And that's when the people in 3D can go in and do their work. So you've been doing that while you sleep. And I go, well, this is taking a toll on me. You need to ask before. He said, well, you agree to it spiritually. I go, great. But now I want to physically ask because I want a good night's sleep sometime. And so all worked out. So it's kind of like both realities exist. The point is, where are you going to put your focus and your attention on? That's the reality you create.
Yeah, where do you put your focus and attention on? I guess for some people as well, sometimes it can seem like, and I've said this in other interviews as well, it can seem like there are some things that are out of our control. Like there is a time for things to happen, and that time is not on our time. You can say it's on God's time, but it's on something else's time. There's a, you know,
it's on the collective time. When enough people
Right.
are with it, it's going to happen. Until then, it ain't going to happen.
No, but you've got to see it through to get to that point. And there is a waiting game. It's like me with my green card right now. I'm on the timeline of USCIS, and I don't know what, you know, reality they're in, right? Or where that ends. But there's absolutely nothing I can do until they wake up and realize that I'm still alive, and that, you know, it's okay to take my case off the shelf that they don't want to look at, do you know what I mean, and actually do it.
Right.
But that's not on, you know, I'm and to get to wait, because things will, once that's been processed and gone through, then I'm allowed a life after that, right? But that's not on my time. So can I change
There's
anything?
beauty in surrender. There's beauty in surrender.
There is no
and it sounds
choice,
like you're ready to surrender.
There's no choice. Oh, I'm ready for a lot of things, right? There's no choice but to surrender. But it's the surrendering carries on like a Groundhog Day. So do you know what I mean?
Well, it can. I don't want to say your reality isn't your reality. It is, but I do want to say that.
Well, I created it. I mean, I'm happy to keep
there's
going
a lot
along
of
with
choice
it.
available to you.
There is, and that would probably be leaving the country and going somewhere where, you know, I don't have these issues.
I meant internal choice available to you about how to even just hearing you talk about this. You know, the way you frame it and phrase it, it's like a done deal.
If there was more hours to sleep, just to sleep it all off for these years, I would do. Right. But
here's to sleep.
Yeah, here's to sleep. Right. It's just not a reality even trying to do that. So no, my point, including that, what I'm saying is that there are situations that seem to be sometimes, what other way out? There's no way out. We have to see things through, is my point.
So there's a yes and there's a no to all that. So I had an experience. So this is only like 3 weeks old. So I'm still trying to grapple with this ability because it just manifested itself and I don't understand it yet. So I'm pulling out of a parking lot and it's on a narrow street down a hill and a guy's speeding down and I don't see him to the last second. So I stop just in front of hitting him. So he stops and he gives me stink eye for a long time. You know, like, what are you doing? Right. So I let everything flow because I've been trained to let it flow. So I'm angry and I'm pissed off and I'm feeling it all. And I'm also understanding shame and guilt about being feeling it all. Okay. 2 blocks later, I've completely finished the process. All right. Internally, I cleared all my stuff. And I realize I'm still connected to this guy. Now I can see his timelines. I can see his pasts where he's been a prick to other people and tried to dominate them and try to control them in traffic and blame them for it because he was speeding through there and stuff. And I also saw that if he's going to choose to learn this lesson, he's going to have a transformation. Or if he's going to keep on the path he's on, he's going to create some accidents or car crashes. Right. And I could just see that all laid out in front of me. And I was like, holy cow. And then I realized if I could see this in another person, can I see this in me? So I started going back to places where I have made choices and had feelings about them and asked my divine to show me. Right. And then I'm like, okay, can I make a different choice or heal it? And so I've actually done this a couple of times where I'll go back to something that bothered me and said, no, that's not what happened. In fact, this is what happened. And I retell the story and then the feelings shift. And I still haven't got it down to where the external reality shifts around, where the $10,000 just shows up in my bank account. Okay, I still haven't got that part down yet. But I have got this part down where I can see these patterns laid out over a lifetime, see where they're going to take me, change what happened in the past just by, again, allowing it, saying, okay, let's have this happen and allowing spirit to do its thing. And then I'm happier. So I don't know where this is going, but in listening to you, Kevin, I know that it's very clear that you've defined your story in a certain way. And so that tells me you're going to lead to certain outcomes. And that's all I wanted to tell you personally, is that how we tell our story creates our story.
Okay, so there's probably a different story that's going to present itself to me as the becoming part of the journey, right? The acceptance of the journey you're going on, living out the karma that's on that journey, etc.
So this is what you're talking about is the key. Our journey is becoming. It's becoming learning. It's our some channels like Lee Carroll calls it the colors. Other people call it your karma, whatever your bands, whatever you've learned. That's our journey. You're on your journey, and it's beautiful. Okay, and at some point you're going to sit there and say, "Wow!" And this whole thing was this lesson. And I got it and I mastered it. At some point, you're going to say that. Till then, you have to tease the puzzle. And sometimes that's frustrating as hell. And that's why I try to offer the services I offer when people do a one-on-one session. Say, let's see if we can untangle some of the emotional knots, not the physical, what you're doing, but the emotional knots. So it'll be easier in the journey.
Yes. And that's very beautiful. Absolutely. And very needed as well. As you're looking at me thinking, shit, he needs it more than he knows, actually.
We all need it, Kevin. Yeah. I need you to give me a session. Come on, we all need it.
Oh God, me giving sessions. Here's the thing, right? What broke the barrier for you to do this work so publicly now that you couldn't do it before? That you care less now than you did before?
So I had to let go of my yardstick. How I measured things. How do I know this is real? How do I know? Because I had so many coincidences. I've seen healings. I've seen physical healings take place. I've had it all happen to me a bunch of times. Okay. So really it was just courage and doubt. And so the Egypt trip I did that. It just fell into place where it just person after person said, yes, this is useful. Yes, this is useful. I was doing a session with one lady early on, and she was asking me about a relationship, and I kept answering because it's spirit that answers. I channel my sacred higher self, her sacred higher self, because I'm in a light trance. And spirit kept saying, now he or she, now he or she, now he or she. And she goes, there's no she. All right. And I go, and I felt terrible, like, oh, I had messed up. I don't know how to do this. Right? So for a week, I felt terrible. The next week, we had another session. She came back and we did a clearing. And she starts confessing, oh, yeah, there was this girl in high school. And I've always had these feelings and all this other stuff. So the denial on her part was so thick that she threw it in my face. And then I carried it. All right. And then a week later, it got cleared. And so spirit was giving me the correct message. So little instances like that along the way, it's like, because I still doubted, but spirit just laughs at me. They just did right now because I'm always in contact, right? They just laugh at me and go, yeah, that's why you're human. That's why you're in a body. You still doubt it. The question is you start making choices and doing it regardless of the doubt. And then you live in the wonder, wow, this happened again. These things happen. And that awe and wonder, that connection to mystery then becomes a way of life, even though there's the Tao of mystery. Well, it's not like 5 things you do to be in mystery because it's a mystery.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, right. Well, that's wow. So when you look at it from that perspective, then that's the whole journey was part of the breaking out of not caring, really. Do you know what I mean? Because it's it's on the edge, isn't it? When you go down this path, there's no going back, is there? Really, you've kind of gone public with it.
Yeah. So
at the same time, the freedom of doing what you've done, I can see how happy you are. I can see how much you love what you do, and I'm sure a session with you is absolutely amazing, just from the energy that you're exerting, right?
Well, thank you.
But it's getting there for some people, isn't it?
So my family, I got tons of nieces and nephews. I'm the 9th child. And so I'm pretty much the age of all my nieces and nephews. So that's who I hang out with. Okay. And they were all different in their spirituality than I am. And for years, they would give me grief for crazy Uncle Pete, right? And so just recently, because the energetics are shifting on the planet so much, they're not poo-pooing me as much. They still think it's kind of nuts. But when they hear about where I'm talking, some of them are going, yeah. And so I'm picking that up. So it was just a matter of being before my time. I remember I learned that in college. I used to do public debating, and I was doing something about creating a Palestinian state. And this was like 15 years before they created one. And it turned into a bloody mess. And I was so ashamed and so embarrassed. And 15 years later, they did exactly what I was advocating in this public debate. So I realized, why did I spend 15 years being upset about this? I was ahead of my time.
Yeah, I get that. I understand. Yeah, you was ahead of your time. Well, just more recently, there has been so much change going on in the world. I mean, it's just, I mean, so much, to the point where, for some people, looking at the alternative spiritual side is the only way that makes sense.
It's going to be. So a lot of sources who channel talk about the bifurcation, right? And it's going to be a multifurcation because we all create our own universe. That's how powerful we are. But the point is, the planet Earth, Gaia herself, has decided to move into 5D and is already there. And it's just being patient and waiting for us to come along. And the reality is your energy is going to change to where you're more open and allowing of all this stuff, or you're not going to be incarnating on this planet anymore. In fact, that's a lot of the reason why death rates are going up and, people are leaving the planet because it's just no longer a comfortable energy for them.
Look, this, it's not a very comfortable subject, but, suicide, we've all been touched by it. And maybe not all of us, but some of us have in some ways, of people that, that have gone too early, through maybe, choice of not wanting to be here anymore. There's a lot of that energy here right now. That I feel it with people, that there's a lot of people that do not want to be here right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. And I've talked to some of them in a session, and, I just feel the deepest sympathy because I can feel their pain. And if they, and the bottom line is, you can choose. You can be alive or not. And as soon as you choose to be alive, okay, then what you need to do is you got to feel what's causing the pain. All right. And that's something that's not as big a deal as we've been taught. I can do it with people in an hour or 2 hours max. And then they're lighter and happier. All right. And yeah, the thing that's going on, I want to talk about the train because this is a really good analogy. The thing that's going on is when you do this clearing work, you declutch, right? You pull the engine away from what's driving the train, but the train can be long and going fast and has a lot of freight on it. So it still keeps moving. So even though the energy that's been driving the train is no longer there, the mind, which is habitual, the mind will start to tell you, oh, it's the same way. So what people need to do as they come into this transition is to check in and say, is that energy still there, or is it just my mind? And if it is just your mind, you make friends with it. Thank you, mind. You did that again. And I'm going down another course today. I'm being prompted to tell you that in my work, because of the openness I allow and the oneness that I'm working to create and work with, I feel it. When I'm with somebody, it's not just them processing. I'm processing too. But it's not that big a deal for me to go dive into somebody's pain and swim around in it for a little while because I've cleared my stuff. Because I've cleared my stuff, it doesn't get stuck. It just passes through me. I think the Hawaiian practice of Ho'oponopono, they figured this out a long time ago. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And if you could do that, I'm sorry, and actually feel the pain that you're sorry for while you're asking the forgiveness, it clears the other person. There's been research showing that, or case studies, not research, showing how Ho'oponopono works. So, yeah, there is a lot of pain out there. And, as we release our own pain, which is the biggest thing, then we're okay with other people being in pain. And in fact, we're boosting them up because they don't even realize, the people in pain don't even realize the vast amount of spirit that's with them trying to get through, but it can't get through because of the blockages of the stuck energy.
Isn't that so true? Probably that our team is probably quite large.
Team. Yeah. I do a weekly meditation where we each bring in our team and then form a group consciousness. And oh my gosh, it's strong when you've got like 8 or 10 people who are bringing 8 or 10 teams.
Let's talk about that. So how can people be part of that?
So contact me through my website, becomingawesome.one. That's .one, becoming awesome. And we can talk about it. There's a video on my website, in fact, on how to set that up, and then people who resonate with our group energy, because we're an established group consciousness now. And that's weirdness in itself, that it exists before we created it. Well, kind of, but then we created it too, and it's just really weird because then we can talk to the group consciousness. And then when we choose to do manifestation, that's really wild because now it's not just one person praying. It's like everybody in the group's energy and their teams, if they're aligned with this energy, is there. All right. So manifestation happens a lot quicker. So yeah, it's not that hard a technique. It's just I think Lynn McTaggart's book, The Power of Eight. Now, what we did is we carried it further. We go into oneness first, spend a lot of time going into oneness. Then we do what Lynn does. And then we do a second technique that a friend of mine developed called info looping. T.W. Harden developed info looping, where we actually share what we got in our meditations without interruption. Everybody shares it. Then we ask questions about where we're confused or what we related to or something we learned. So then it gets settled in the group. Then after a while, like 3 or 4 meetings, we make a statement. Okay, we're all in a group consciousness now. And then the benefit is that when somebody else gets an enlightenment experience or something, we all get it because they're all connected. So it's really kind of cool how fast you can develop by using a group consciousness as a tool. And I have a video on my website on how to do that. And I'm, again, happy to coach people if they sign up for a coaching session to get that set up, because really it works 8 or 10 or 12 people. After that, it gets too unwieldy for everybody to share.
Well, thank you. So let's just very quickly as well, just go to what you offer as well. So you just mentioned there, obviously, the spiritual, well, you call it coaching session, but you call it channel spiritual coaching session on the website. So very quickly, for people that may feel a resonance with that, what is that? And you kind of explained it there, but if you just want to just very briefly just sort of touch upon that.
Okay, so I offer 2 kinds of sessions, and I'm going to talk about the first one, which is the coaching session. And that's just where I connect to your sacred higher self with permission. I don't go where I'm not invited. Okay, and then you ask stuff, usually about what's going on right now and what you can be doing or what's blocking you in the moment. We're not interested. I'm not interested in being a medium or talking about, life choices, because spirit always tells me every time, it's your choice. You make it. That's how you become. We're not going to guide you because otherwise you do what we tell you. So those are the coaching sessions. They're usually for people who are stuck in a painful place or who are ready to take the next step and not sure what that means in their growth. The second kind of session is a process facilitation session. That's a little bit longer. It's an hour instead of a half hour. And that's where we go in and we identify what blockages are in you and how to clear them. Now, I use some techniques I learned from Oneness University. I also use the emotion code that Dr. Bradley Nelson developed, except we've developed systems, me and my friends have developed systems to make it even stronger and faster. All right. So that we can just identify emotions, clear them out 3 or 5 or 10 in a session, and then replace them with something better. That's the key. Always replace it with something better. And since we're not really sure what that is, often it's just ask for auspicious qualities or the exact opposite of what you're getting rid of, so it fills you and you have that energetic. So those are the 2 types of sessions I offer: a coaching session and a process facilitation session.
And then you've got as well the 10 tools to abundance.
Right. So everybody complains about abundance. Me too. Okay. So I said, well, hey, I know a thing or two. So I looked at all the things that have worked in my life for creating abundance and just put them all down there. And now money just shows up. I mean, literally, sometimes, I'll get an inheritance. Sometimes somebody will give me a really super big donation. Sometimes somebody will offer me work. I cannot tell you how many times, Kevin, I wanted to do something. I wanted to buy like a $5,000 leather sofa that was big enough for me because I was tall. And then as soon as I decide to buy it and push the button on the internet to order it, like 15 minutes later, a client calls me up and gives me a contract for that exact amount. That happens to me all the time in my career. All right. So I said, well, I've got this abundance thing down. These are simple tools. And I know my other neighbor on the other side who doesn't have the wall is always telling me, oh, I can't afford this. I can't afford that. I'm like, hey, it's right there in front of you. Go grab it. Right. But they're not going to create the time for it. Then you can continue to live the life of poor me. Or as I learned in AA, pour me a drink.
Right. Yes. Well, what is then one of the key, obviously we haven't got the time to go into it too much, but just a sort of key then to abundance, or one of the key tools to abundance?
So 2 things I want to call attention to. One of them is how you define abundance, how you speak of it. Most people talk about abundance in terms of dollars and cents, and they don't understand that they could be rich in love or in beauty. So first of all, really look at what abundance is for you. For me, my abundance is the ability to do anything I want to do when I want to do it. Okay. So I have the resources. So literally just the other day, I'm I've got a couple of business opportunities that are opening up. And if they come through, one of them, two of them could be super lucrative. I mean, like bucket loads of money. All right. So I was sitting in my hot tub the other day thinking, what would I do if I had $2 million in the bank right now? And I used to play that game a lot when I was younger, like when I felt poor and stuff, like I needed to win the lottery or something. And so I'm sitting in my hot tub thinking, what do I do? And I couldn't think of a single thing. I mean, other than finish paying off the mortgage, which is taken care of anyway every month. But it's like I couldn't think of something I would need money to do because I'm already doing stuff in my life where it doesn't matter. The money just comes to me because I can do it. All right. So that was a huge breakthrough and a huge awareness. So that's the first thing is how do you talk about money? What is abundance for you? The second thing is, and I learned this from Analia Benz, who's been a great teacher, because I'm the kind of guy who goes to lots of people and take their classes and learn from them. But at a certain point, it all became mine. Okay. All right. So Analia Benz just said, make friends with the spirit of money. And so I have a process on how to get in contact. And you can barely see it over my shoulder on the bookshelf in the corner. There's Lakshmi looking down, smiling at us. Okay. But anyway, can you get so that it's not like, oh, you're my friend, pay my bills. You don't want that. But they're like, do you spend time with the spirit every day? Do you talk to them? Are they just there for you? Do you have a relationship? Because what I was taught and what's worked for me was that, let's say you got a new neighbor that moves in and you go to their house every day and say, hey, I really like you. Here's a pie. Oh, hey, I brought some records over. Let's listen to them. Hey, you're such a nice person, right? And you do this every day. And of course they like it because you're telling them nice things, right? Then one day you don't show up and the person goes, well, where's my neighbor? Maybe I should go see them. Now imagine if you have that same relationship with the divine, okay? Where you're going every day saying really great things. Then one day you don't show up. They're going to say, hey, where's my person? So can you have that relationship with the spirit of money where it just comes to you because it likes being around you? And so that literally it's an energetic feel if you can develop it. And so there's some tools on doing that.
So you're a conscious channel. How easy is that for you to sort of drop into that conscious state of channeling then?
Right. So of course, meditation helped me get there. But what I want to talk about is I don't even look at it as a trance state. I just look at it as being alive. So I'm to the point now, and this is where everybody's going to get to when they allow oneness into their lives. I'm to the point now where spirit is always with me. And I talk to spirit, my sacred higher self mostly, but anybody else if I choose to. I talk to them the exact same way I'm talking to you. They won't interrupt because I made it very clear. Nobody interrupts until I say hello. Okay. All right. So, but as soon as I ask a question, I just tune into the energy. And then it's literally like talking to you, Kevin. Just ask it. There's the answer instantly. The only difference is they don't talk in words. They talk in energy squirts. So I get this in my head and then I have to make words out of it. And that developed some practice over time. And of course, it's limited to my vocabulary. Sometimes I'll ask about stuff and it's like, because I don't know astrophysics, the energy makes no sense. If I ask about medical stuff, I get biological answers that I can't make sense of the energy because I don't have the words. But literally, it's like talking to you and it's 24/7. And in fact, spirit is reminding me right now, like it's been for a while, Peter, you spend so much time doing your mundane, focusing on whatever, just kind of ask us to play with you, ask us to come into this stuff so that we're even more with you and you're even more connected.
Okay, so going back to yourself here as well, is there anything in the energy that you're channeling or from your guides that they maybe this energy or the guides want to give a message to the audience?
So they gave me 3 or 4 things that would be useful for general people right now. And the first one, of course, is just understand how amazingly loved you are. This is something that used to make me so pissed off. I'd read channels and I'd listen to channels and they'd come in with all this love and stuff. And I'd come on, get to the good stuff. And then I started realizing that the energetic of the love, it wasn't the words, it was the energetic of the love shifted me. Okay. So what spirit really wants the general audience to know right now, when I say spirit, I mean my sacred higher self. What spirit really wants you to know right now is that you're so loved. You got so much of it coming in. And then this is the big one. Can you love yourself? Can you just go for a while every day and just go, yeah, I'm amazing. I'm awesome. Can you do that like you would your pets? and all those things you see on TV where you just smell. Can you do that every day? And once you start to do that, then everything else is going to open up for you. And that's the biggest single message. And it's the message I used to hate. It's like, oh, it's the love message again. Come on, give me practical stuff I could do.
Yeah. Well, I think that's an important message though, isn't it? Because, many of us right now, we feel alone, don't we? We feel isolated still. Or maybe I feel that. maybe that's me a bit. I think it is.
It is you a bit. And when you say many, remember, we're part of the collective, and you especially, because of your line of work, you unconsciously, if you don't mind me just saying this, you unconsciously tap into the collective so you can ask these questions and stuff. So yes, you're feeling it quite.
Yeah, I guess with my circumstances as well, that I get to live it. Yeah, which is always so much more fun, right? Yeah, I think I've just, I feel very, very isolated right now. And this has been going on for a long time, but it's all choices that I've made to get to that situation. I can't blame anyone else except, I don't blame anything. I'm just saying choices I made led up to that outcome.
So if I can I just get your permission to talk to your sacred higher self?
Sure, this is what the show's about. People love this. Let's do
okay.
it. Yeah.
So they're sitting there going like this, Kevin. They're going. Okay, that's what they're doing to you right now, because it's like, you understand this. And now at some point, it's not whether you make different choices. You will, because you're having that awareness. And as you keep that awareness up, the choices will naturally flow. And so the good thing is to love yourself for having made those choices. That's what they're telling me. Come on, Kevin, just love yourself for making those choices. And don't worry about your next choice. It's so going to be there for you.
My next choice, I know they're there, but my next choice is it just feels it's the same choice as yesterday and the day before. There's and they're like ding 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 ding. Okay, you just know it. You just said it. So but they're saying that, aren't they? Because then I could change it as well. Yeah, and I could just make other choices.
Right. And what they're recommending at this moment is start with something very small. Start with just one little small thing. So you just say, oh, I'm on a different arc. And when you make that little small thing, so it doesn't feel like a big thing to you, notice what happens on your inside and keep breathing into that. Go, oh, and then that'll grow. Then you'll make bigger choices until you make the ones where it just changes like that.
I think sometimes we know what we would love to do, and it's just getting there, isn't it? It's
trust is what they're telling me, is that what you're expressing is a lack of trust, knowing that it's going to be fine if you did do something different. And that's the whole thing. And then that, of course, goes back to other times where, trust has been violated and stuff like that. So, it's just a trust thing. And, when you're ready, you'll see those and you'll clear those and you'll just start making the new choices.
So bringing this back to yourself, Peter, and the audience as well, is there anything in the energy that you're channeling, or even from the group or guys that you're working with, that they want to say or have a message for the audience?
So first of all, we talked about loving yourself. The second thing is, can you create a moment of joy every day? A moment of joy. Whether it's laughter, which is preferable. Laughter yoga is a big thing. You can just turn videos of people going, ho, 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 ho. So you start doing it. You can watch TV shows that you like. I've been watching Whose Line Is It Anyway from the 1980s and just loving it, okay? That kind of stuff. So get that going, because that's going to create the energetic shift at a very, very basic level. Then the next thing is you need a new measuring stick. We're still judging everything by what we've been raised and what we've been taught, which is all 3D. So this is where you start to invite awe and mystery into your life and say, hey, look, I'm going to try living today without having this whole idea of what things are supposed to be like or what they're, and just catch yourself. Just catch yourself when you're judging it, because it's literally, you remember that old Yul Brynner movie, The 10 Commandments? I think Charlton Heston was in it, and Yul Brynner played the Pharaoh. And he'd sit there and he'd go, thus it is spoken, thus it shall be done. Okay. And so literally that is how creation works. So they're saying, get a new measuring stick so you start speaking different things. So those three things are just the baseline to start everybody else off on, is the thing you can do if you're listening. Love yourself for your mistakes. Love yourself for them. Bliss every day. Laugh a little bit. Start to think about new measuring sticks. And then becoming awesome.1. Let's do a one-on-one.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much for just sharing that as well. You got a lovely energy, and
thank you so much, Kevin.
I know how much what this work means to you as well, and I know this is where you are now in your life is everything that you've worked. This is what it all has come to, and I know how important that is to you as well. So and I know that you're gonna. I mean, yeah, God, what you're gonna go do is gonna be interesting. I've seen you on webinars. You're very you kind of rule that space. Do you know that you're good? You really, I mean,
I'm like a double Leo, if you want to give a definition to it.
Well, you've kind of let me just sort of take the reins here a bit, but normally it's you that's doing that, and I appreciate you just sort of stepping back just to let me just do this interview with you from that respect. But no, I mean it. What I'm saying, it's going to be interesting to see what you're going to be up to, and I'm sure we're going to cross paths again, because what you do is, like you say, it's very different to other people as well, and I think I've got an audience here that needs your help as well. I know that.
Deep gratitude to you. My spirit is connecting to who is going to be viewing this in the future, because time's there. And it's very, very sweet. There's a lot of that, what? But there's also a lot of folks going, yeah, hey, I'm ready to just step into my power. Absolutely. So I'm looking forward to talking to you. Yeah, becomingawesome.one.one is the website. You can go to my blog there and start to see all the YouTube videos, which are usually messages for me, but also for everybody else. YouTube videos, and that channel is Becoming Awesome on YouTube.
Excellent. So, and all those links will be in the description below. Anything we've mentioned today in the description below, you'll be able to find the links to that as well. So I just want to say, Peter, just thank you so much for coming on, and I appreciate everything you do. Thank you.
Much appreciation, many blessings.